How's it going, everybody? In this episode, we'll be covering some ominous mysteries. Starting off with our first point of interest, the Flannan Isles, 1900. In the remote and desolate Flannan Isles, 3 lighthouse keepers tended to the Eileen Moore Lighthouse. It was a cold December day in 1900, and they noticed something was amiss. Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur had been living and working on the island for months, ensuring the safety of passing ships. One morning, as a supply ship approached the island, the crew realized that no one was there to greet them. The lighthouse lamp had not been lit the previous night, which was highly unusual. Fearing the worst, they sounded the ship's horn and fired a distress signal, but were met with no response. The supply ship's crew eventually managed to land on the island, and when they entered the lighthouse, they found the lighthouse in a state of disarray. The kitchen table was set for a meal, and it appeared that the 3 keepers had been in the middle of their duties, but the men had disappeared without a trace. The lighthouse log entries provided no answers. The last few days were filled with mundane reports, nothing to suggest any trouble. Theories and speculations swirled around the mysterious disappearance. Some suggest a freak wave might have swept the 3 keepers away, while others believed they had fallen victim to illness or madness. Strangest of all, one of the men's oilskin coats was missing, indicating that at least one of them had ventured outside without protection from the harsh weather. Despite extensive searches, the lighthouse keepers were never found. The Flannan Isle mystery remains unsolved, leaving a chilling and enigmatic story that has puzzled the world for over a century. The Exorcist film, 1973. One of the most notorious legends to ever come out of Hollywood is the many reports that the Exorcist film was cursed. During filming, multiple people were injured, and 4 people even died. Some under mysterious circumstances. This ranged from relatives of crew members to main cast who passed during post-production. The set was also home to several freak accidents that caused multiple delays, including the home being used for the set burning to the ground, with the only surviving area being the room where the exorcism scene took place. Not only this, but some who saw the movie in theaters felt ill during the screening. Many quickly dismissed these claims as being a simple stroke of incredibly bad luck, but the filmmakers felt that there were other forces at play, so much so that they actually brought a priest to the set to bless it. Brandon Lee, The Crow, 1994. The son of martial artist Bruce Lee, Brandon was killed right in the middle of filming for The Crow by a prop gun that fired a live round instead of a blank. Blank rounds can still be very dangerous when fired, and although the incident was deemed accidental, not everyone is convinced that this was the case. Brandon's father, the legendary Bruce Lee, had also died under mysterious circumstances, leading many to believe that the family had been cursed. Others believed that the Lee family was targeted by gang affiliates over conflicts with the Chinese triads over money and protection. Brandon's mother sued the parties involved over negligence, but no one person was ever convicted with the death of Brandon Lee, and the mystery of his death still lingers to this day. Marvin Brandlin of Fort Dodge, Iowa, 1982. 69-year-old Marvin Brandlin lived with his wife Ethel in Fort Dodge, Iowa. On Halloween that year, the Brandlins were handing out candy to trick-or-treaters who came to their house. At one point, they answered the door and were surprised to see a man wearing a mask. He said,
"Trick or treat, give me your money or I'll shoot."
The Brandlins thought someone was playing a Halloween prank and tried to remove the man's mask, but he wouldn't let them. Instead, the masked man entered the house and pulled out a gun. He demanded that the couple bring him to the basement and give him all the money they had stashed in their safe. The Brandlins became suspicious since very few people knew they even had a safe in their basement. For this reason, Marvin was still convinced that a friend or family member was simply playing a Halloween trick on them. When the masked man led the Brandlins through the kitchen towards the basement, Marvin made a grab for the gun. The intruder wound up shooting Marvin in the throat before fleeing the house and inexplicably leaving the mask behind. Ethel was so traumatized by her husband's death that she died only a few months later. Over the years, an acquaintance of the Brandlin family had allegedly bragged about committing the murder, so DNA testing was performed on the mask. However, there wasn't enough usable material for an adequate test, so there was still no evidence to charge the suspect. Sadly, Marvin Brandlin's case officially remains unsolved. Mary Celeste, 1872. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York bound for Genoa, Italy in November 1872. The ship was managed by Captain Benjamin Briggs and 7 crew members, including Briggs's wife and their 2-year-old daughter. Supplies on board were set to last for 6 months, and there were many luxurious items on board. On December 4th, 1872, the British-American ship was found abandoned and floating in the Atlantic Ocean. It was found to be undamaged and with its cargo fully intact except for a lifeboat, which appeared had been boarded in an orderly fashion. It remains a mystery of what happened to the crew because they were never found or heard from again. Most would agree that to abandon such a worthy ship, some extraordinary and alarming circumstances must have arisen. However, the last entry on the ship's daily log reveals nothing unusual, and inside the ship, all appeared to be in order. Conspiracy theories over the years have included mutiny, pirates, and even a giant octopus or sea monster attack, and the cause behind this ghost ship remains unsolved. Tupac Shakur, 1996. On September 7th, 1996, at the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, rap artist Tupac Shakur was seen attending a Mike Tyson boxing match. After the match, Tupac left with the CEO of Death Row Records, Suge Knight. Upon the departure of the match, Tupac and his bodyguards got into a fight with the Compton-based Southside Crips gang member Orlando Anderson in the lobby of the MGM. After the fight was broken up, Tupac and Knight left in Knight's car with Tupac's entourage following in the cars behind them. While stopped at the intersection of Flamingo and Koval, a white Cadillac pulled up to the passenger side of Knight's car and shot out of the window, hitting Tupac 4 times and grazing Knight in the head with a bullet fragment. Tupac was then taken to the UMC of Southern Nevada and placed on life support before falling into a medically induced coma. On September 13, 1996, 6 days after the shooting, Tupac died as a result of his injuries at the age of 25. In 2014, Las Vegas Police Department Sergeant Chris Carroll revealed that he was the first police officer at the scene. According to Carroll, when he opened the car door, Tupac fell out of the car, covered in blood, and Carroll asked, "Who shot you?" Tupac took a deep breath and only proclaimed explicitive words at the police officer before slipping into unconsciousness. Las Vegas police never arrested anyone in connection with the murder. They also failed to follow up with Yaki Gaddafi, a witness and member of Tupac's entourage who claimed he could identify the shooter. Unfortunately, Gaddafi was murdered only 2 months after the infamous shooting before he could be interviewed. As of October 2023 and the time of this upload, there has been an update on the case of Tupac Shakur. A man named Dwayne Keith Davis, aka Keith D., an American member of California-based gang known as the Southside Compton Crips, has admitted to the crime and been charged with first-degree murder. While in custody, he has stated that he was paid off by Bad Boy CEO Sean Diddy Combs, but when interviewed, Combs nervously dismissed any explanation on the subject, leading to more mystery and speculation. Jack the Ripper, 1888. In the darkest streets and alleyways of East London, better known as the Whitechapel District, lived a serial killer that would go down in history as Jack the Ripper. Even though the Whitechapel District was known for its violence and crime, the string of murders conducted by Jack the Ripper would terrorize the public like no one had seen before. He was described as a madman with no clear motive. Even though his most famous murders only included 5 women, known as the Canonical Five, many theories suggest that he claimed the lives of up to 11 women. All of the victims of the Canonical Five were mistresses of the night, as it was common for women who lived in the Whitechapel district to take on as a means to survive. All 5 killings took place within a mile of each other from August 7th to September 10th, 1888. Several other murders occurring around that time period have also been investigated as the work of Jack the Ripper, aka Leather Apron. A number of letters were allegedly sent by the killer to the London Metropolitan Police Service, aka Scotland Yard, taunting the officers about his gruesome activities and speculating on murders to come. Most notably, the letter from hell that reads,
From hell. Mr. Lusk, so I sent you half the kidney I took from one woman. Preserved it for you. The other piece I fried and ate. It was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out, if only you wait a while longer. Signed, Catch me if you can, Mr. Lusk.
Despite countless investigations claiming definitive evidence of the brutal killer's identity, their true name and motive are still unknown. The Watcher House, 2014. In June 2014, Maria and Derek Brodus and their 3 young children were getting ready to move into their new home, 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. They claimed the 6-bedroom house was their dream home and located just a couple of blocks away from Maria's childhood home. Just 3 days after closing the sale, before the Brodus family had even begun to move in, a letter arrived in their new mailbox. The letter was addressed to the new owner, in big clunky handwriting. The typed letter reads as follows.
Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one.
The letter also mentions specifics about the Brodus family.
You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call them and draw them to me.
At the bottom of the letter, the author used the cursive font to sign, The Watcher. After receiving the letter, the Brodus family reached out to the previous family who had sold them the house, John and Andrea Woods. They stated that during the 23 years of living at 657 Boulevard, they had never received a letter like that, except once a few days before they were getting ready to move out of the house. The Woods family also stated that they had never felt watched in the 2 decades that they have lived at the house, and, in fact, rarely felt the need to lock their door at night. While they thought the note they received was odd, they threw the note away without much concern. Still, the 2 families went to the police with the letter, and an investigation was opened. The police warned the families not to tell anyone about the letters, including their neighbors, who were now all suspects. 2 weeks later, even though the Brodus family still hadn't moved in, they received a second letter with even more chilling specifics about the family, including the children's birth order and nicknames. The Watcher also asked,
Will the children sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the 2nd floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I will know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better.
Several weeks later, the Brodus family had put their plans on hold to move in. A third letter arrived saying,
Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you.
By the end of 2014, the case had stalled. There was no digital trail, and the mental effects were taking a toll on the Brodus family. There were no fingerprints and no way to place somebody at the scene of the crime. Only 6 months after they received the letters, they decided to sell the home, 657 Boulevard has been sold and is currently off the market, while the watcher's identity still remains a mystery.